What's up, you guys? I'm here with a new video today, here to talk about my boy Ed Acepcion's top 8 UDS Sacramento Magical Musketeers deck profile. This is just nuts. Leave it to Ed, of all people. Ed's a good friend of mine. One of the craziest Yu-Gi-Oh players I know, and honestly, probably one of my favorite people in this game. Big fan, you already know. Yeah, he made top 8 with Magical Musketeers. It's been insane. If you guys have him on Facebook, you'll see, like, in Zodiac Duelist, just in his stats and everything, talking about how he's just going to top with Magical Musketeers, and well, sure enough, he did it. Pretty crazy. There hasn't been that many Magical Musketeer tops. You guys already know I have my boy Andrew, who got 9th place at our regional in San Jose with Magical Musketeer. He played a completely different approach to the deck as Ed did. And so far, outside of, I believe, one other, I think it's 1 or 2 tops, Magical Musketeers just hasn't seen a lot of play. So that alone gives you an advantage of the fact that people still don't know what these cards do. But leave it to Ed. He came up with a pretty crazy list. The original deck profile, of course, is on Jobber's channel. Be sure to go check it out. He gives really good detailed explanations. I'm going to try to do him justice by talking about some of his card choices and whatnot. You guys wanted to see this. I wanted to deliver. We're just going to get into it. Again, congratulations, Ed. Doing it with Magical Musketeers. Like, your win's coming, man. Like, best believe. But let's get into it. So he played 2 copies of Starfire. Things he noted in his live deck profile was that the thing with Starfire, he only played 2 copies because it wasn't that great in this build of the deck. Reason being is that it's only good with Desires, and when you have like your combo pieces already, like your combo cards, your Magical Musketeer cards that you want to start using, that's the thing, is that having this with Desires obviously is really good. So he played only 2 copies of that. He played 3 copies of Kid Brave. He just said that Kid Brave was just amazing, was just an absolute beast, because the main thing that Kid Brave does is it cycles through your deck, and it sculpts your hand. You can get really risky with this, because if you guys already know, you're able to discard a Magical Musket card, draw 2 cards. Basically, you know, you can turn your dead Magical Musketeer cards into hand traps, into better cards to keep playing the game. And one thing you'll see when you watch the live deck profile is he talks about how you kind of just are just trying to get lucky a lot of times. You're trying to replace what are dead cards with better cards. So just really cool. He likes the fact that it gives you options. So that's why he played 3 copies of Kid Brave. He played 2 copies of Doc. He said that he was playing 3 copies for the longest time. The problem with Doc, though, is that it's really good late game, but it's bad early game. But it is like the main way you grind in this deck. So that's why he played only 2 copies. Being able to add your Magical Musketeer cards from your graveyard to your hand is good. You're just not able to get the same as the activated card. It just helps you grind and helps you cycle so that you can continue playing the game. And like I said, it's your main like grind card. So that's why there's 2 copies of that. And then he played 3 copies of Caspar. Caspar is, you know, just the big daddy, as everyone calls it. He has 2,000 defense, and also he's just your Stratos. Like, you're able to summon him and search a copy of himself. Talks about where if people make the mistake and Ghost Ogre Caspar, you still can search another Caspar, survive the turn, and then play Caspar again. So card's just really solid. One of the main guys in the deck. And that's it for all the Magical Musketeer monsters. And then he played, of course, the 6 hand traps. Thing he said, and this is just pretty common knowledge, is that every deck should be having these cards in your deck. Ogre specifically is for pendulums. Now, Ash Blossom, a lot of people debate on Ash Blossom right now in this format because of all the pendulum decks. The thing is that in a large tournament, you're not going to play pendulum every single round. It's highly unlikely. And Ash is just insane against rogue decks and against just random decks. So that's why you play all 6 hand traps. Plus, one thing he notes is that it is a tuner. And when we get to the extra deck, you guys will see why. So that's it for the monsters. It's 16 monsters. Spells, he has Raigeki. One thing he talks about in the live deck profile is that the biggest thing with Magical Musketeers is they have a hard time kind of just killing big monsters. So Raigeki's in there. Can also trigger the guys depending on the column placement. And I mean, it's just a solid card overall. It's not the best card right now in the game, but it's definitely beneficial when your deck has a hard time getting around, you know, big monsters. 3 Desires, self-explanatory. Broken with was it Starfire, and just, I mean, come on, it's a +1. The God card, as he calls it, the Ties of the Brethren, you guys already know. Summon out 3 of the guys, get everything cycling. He said it's pretty much your auto win button if you go first. And then he just played a lot of consistency cards, Upstart and Dualities. They help you dig for what you need. And then for the Magical Musket spells, he played just one copy of Steady Hands. Now, he said that he's seen lists that play multiple copies. The thing he said is that this card is really lackluster. Reason being is that it is just a Rota, and that you get more value out of using like Duality and Upstarts versus using multiple copies of this, because even if they ash your Desires or whatever, you still get the search off of your Magical Musketeers. So he just decided to play one copy. And then, of course, 3 copies of Cross Domination. This card is nuts. You just change a monster to 0, and it has the effects negated. I mean, that's just broken. Then you just run over it. It's quick play. Like, that's crazy. So, card's great. You can use it in the damage step, etc. So, yeah. And then that's it for the spells. And then on to the traps. He played 3 copies of Desperado. Basically, just put it this way. It's Dryden. Dryden's banned for a reason. It is Dryden, you guys. Control a Magical Musketeer. Target one face-up card on the field. Destroy it. Self-explanatory. Played 1 copy of Fiendish Magical Musket. Fiendish Deal. It's really cool. It's basically like Magical Musketeer monsters cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Card in your possession to send to the graveyard by opponent's card effect. You can add a Magical Musket from your deck to your graveyard to your hand, except Fiendish Deal. This card is nuts. Basically said if they try to Raigeki you and you chain this, you pretty much win. So it's how you keep your Magical Musketeers alive. Then he played 3 copies of Last Stand. And Last Stand is just basically your Solemn Judgment of the deck. Your opponent activates a spell or trap while you control Magical Muskets. Negate the activation if you do destroy that card. Card's just really good, you know, self-explanatory. Being able to negate spells and traps is awesome. And then his spicy card in here was 2 copies of Solemn Scolding. He talked about how these cards were Solemn Warning, Solemn Strike, possibly even Judgment. And the reason why he went with Solemn Scolding is because it actually stops a normal summon. It's one of the only cards that stops a normal summon. And believe it or not, that is really important in this game, because usually when your opponent's normal summon happens, if you are able to disrupt the normal summon and they don't have another one, unless their deck is like heavily special summon based, they really don't have that many plays. So Scolding is there for that, plus it can stop pretty much anything that'll hurt you, and you're always activating your Magical Musket cards from your hands, so that's why he went with Scolding. So that's it for the main deck. Now we'll get on to the extra deck. Now the extra deck, you guys can see, is just a plethora of cherries targets. He has the Buster Dragon for ABC. He has, let's see, I'm gonna try to skip over some of these. He has Dante, which he does summon, but is also for Burning Abyss, for Paleozoics, for any Link deck, for World Chalice, Link decks, etc., for Spirals, for any Pendulum deck, and for the Gem Knight FTK. So he's got a bunch of cherries targets, because he does have cherries in the side deck. But the main cards that he talked about was Trishula. He is able to summon Trishula. He said there's a point where you get in the game where you have like 2 of your level 3s up, and then you just summon one of your tuners, and you just summon Trishula, so very cool. And then he said like the MVPs were M7 and Hayades, because it's our Hayades. Basically, you just summon M7 over it. It does have a cool effect. It can do like a Mass Book of Moon, well, it's Face Up Book of Moon, I guess, effect. Basically, you summon M7. It's just a grind card, just really cool. Plays Acid Golem. It's at 3,000. It's just nuts. You just use it, and then, you know, he just said this is how you get around big monsters. And then Nightmare Shark, he said, again, you know, this deck has a hard time, you know, destroying monsters. So a lot of ways you kind of steal games is you just deal extra damage. So that's why Nightmare Shark is in there. And then Break Sword, just good utility as a what's it called, a level 3. And then of course, we have the Grand Pulse. He said what's kind of cool about Grand Pulse, I think a lot of people don't realize, that's 2,800 defense. You play this against Trick Stars. They don't have Eater of Millions. They have a really hard time playing because they can't out big monsters. So, yeah. And then Dante, like I mentioned, he does actually summon this several times. So, his extra deck, bunch of cherries targets, some cool versatility cards, and, of course, Trishula, because Trishula, I mean, you can summon it. It's broken. So, yeah. Here's extra deck. And then just onto his side deck real quick. The 3 copies of cherries, because basically his whole extra deck is cherries targets. It's just how you beat a lot of the decks these days. 3 evenly matched, self-explanatory. He plays 1 copy of Dancing Needle, which is like a big DD Crow. Targets up to 3 cards in the graveyard and banish them. It's pretty good. It's really good against 60 cards against my deck, like for real. Like that just completely can just destroy a 60 card deck. So very cool. He just sided it basically for that deck. 3 copies of D-Bear and 3 copies of Imperial Ironwall. Basically said he calls it the I don't like invoked package, because D-Bear, you guys already know, call fusions. Imperial Ironwall is starting to see a lot more play, you guys. Not only does it out evenly matched, it's also for invoked, because you can't play Invocation, you can't even summon Eater of Millions, you can't do anything that involves banishing cards. So I think a lot of people are going to start to realize, oh man, Imperial Ironwall is really, really good. So yeah, just very solid. And then of course, Rivalry of the Warlords, because he plays like basically, what is it, all warriors, or all whatever these guys are. They're all what are they, all fiends? Oh crap, yeah, they are all fiends. But yeah, basically you just make it to where you know, you summon your monsters, flip rivalry, you know, bait out in a gate, flip rivalry, and the pendulum board is gone because they have to stick with one monster. So very, very cool. I think a lot more people are going to pick up on rivalry or warlords based on the deck they're playing. But yeah, that is it, you guys. That is Ed Acepcion's top 8 UDS Sacramento Magical Musketeers bang bang deck profile. Again, shout out to you, Ed. Congratulations on another top and doing it with another crazy deck as always. Of course, shout out to Jobber. Be sure to check out the live deck profile in the description below. It'll give you guys more insight into Ed's card choices and whatnot. And hopefully I did justice with this deck profile. But let me know what you guys think of the deck in the comments below. Let me know if there's any other decks from the UDS you want me to cover. And let me know what you guys think of Magical Musketeers, this format. Now that we see that someone is able to top with them, we are in a format where pretty much any deck can top. Do you think Magical Musketeers have potential beyond the UDS going forward? Just let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.